Good evening. Patrick here. Have Cheetah Will View, Eight Questions with, and welcome to the show. Uh, yes, we are inviting rock royalty on tonight, and bass player Jerry Montano. Jerry Montano has been in several great bands, including Danzig, Nothingface, Hellyeah, Destroyer. He's toured with Steve Piercy from the band Rat. He has recorded on several different records. He's put his own music out. Yeah, it's going to be an amazing show. It's not going to be all just music, though. There's more to Jerry than just music. We're going to be talking a lot of horror movies tonight. Because there's one thing I know about bands, and I do know a thing or two about bands, is they love movies. Band members love movies, because simply put, a lot of those bands have been on the road. They get on the buses and they go from city to city, and a lot of times it's like, what do you do? To pass away the time is that you watch movies. Hi, Aunt. How are you? Glad you are here. Glad you are here. If you guys feel like sharing this out, that would be awesome as well. I also want to sit there and say that we are dual streaming today. So to everybody in the who's watching on Facebook, thank you for being here. And if you type in on Facebook, if you type in your comment, do me a favor and type in your name as well, because you come up to me as this Facebook user, but I like to know who's in there. So when you type in your comment, type in your name and then your comment. Hey, there's our good friend Waffles, who shared us out. Heroic Waffles. That should be a band name, actually. That should be a band name. If that was a band name, that would be like a platinum selling record. But what music would Heroic Waffles play? Would he play country? Would he play rock and roll? Would he play sort of like a rockabilly tune? Sort of like a rockabilly name. Okay, girls and kittens and guys, get on the dance floor and do some dancing to the musical stylings of the Heroic Waffles. um, so, all right. Real quick too, man. I gotta say this right now, even though you guys are here, and I'm glad you're here, and I know you're gonna stay here. I hope, but I gotta give it up for our good friend John. John from Doomsday Crypt. He is launching his new show with Beatrice Bopple, from Nightmare on Elm Street. They're doing their first show tonight. They started at 7 p.m. and I was there for the first hour of it, and I got to tell you, it's really cute. Those two guys are going to be tearing it up. Um, you know, the way I say it is like go over there for the first hour and check them out, but then when the real show starts, right? Uh, and I also want to give her a shout out to our good friend DeRay from Rainbow Fright. She is also on panel tonight on another show. And she had sent me an invitation to come watch it. And unfortunately, I am working here. But what I can do is I can give a shout out to DeRay and Rainbow Fright, and share that she will be our first guest on March's Women in Horror Month. That's right. Rainbow Fright will be our first official guest for March. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah. Uh, and here's our good friend Hobbs Horror coming on in, playing multiple guitars. Hobbs is a great lover of music as well, as we all are here. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun show. I had help doing this show from the group, the Friendly Men. They're the ones that helped me book this show, and I want to say thank you for them for doing so. This is an amazing show, and I'm very glad to get it. I'm hoping to get more. We were talking among each other about helping each other out, and they seem to have guests reaches to guests that I don't have, and vice versa. And I'm hoping that will work into a working partnership, because when you do a show like this, it takes a lot of help. Our friend Ant was also part of the Friendly Men, and he was here last Saturday. So if you see Ant review things there, he is part of the Friendly Men, and he was one of the people that are responsible for getting us the show here tonight. So thank you again. I hope that they will come in and watch the show as well. Uh, yes. Thanks, Hobbs. I'm glad you're here too, buddy. Uh, so as far as our calendar goes, well, first of all, I gotta say thank you for all the chat. You guys have really been tearing it up lately. I've been seeing better and better attendance in the chats. Thank you so much. It takes a long time to build it up. And yesterday we had a really good show with our friend Echo Zero. You guys really tore it up for that as well. Thank you so much. It means a lot um, because it's a lot of hard work. I do my best to try to bring some very talented people to you and pick their brains, and it's a lot of fun. And it seems like a lot more people have been tuning in lately. So thank you so much. Yeah, I looked down already, and all of a sudden I looked down on my member count, and all of a sudden it's like 1,020, and I'm going like it was just 1,000 just a minute ago, and now it's up to 1,020. So thank you again for that. Oh, okay. Our guest is here in the basement, and you know how it is. When our guest gets here, we don't leave them in the basement. We go get them. So we're a little early, but you know what? We have a lot to talk about. So go ahead and let me go get our guest, Jerry Montano. Here he is. Let's go.
Patrick.
Jerry, welcome, sir. Doing well, doing well. How are you?
Doing great, man.
This is going to be a lot of fun.
How are you?
Good, good. I feel like I sandbagged you a little bit, a little bit. Uh, uh, I actually worked in the business for 10 years when I was in California.
Oh yeah, what'd you do?
Talent buyer,
What's that?
talent buyer.
Oh, talent buyer.
Yeah.
For what
Say
venues?
say it with more energy though.
What venues did you work at?
I worked at two venues you might have heard of. One was called the Edge in Palo Alto,
Hmm.
and I worked with my friend Jimmy Arsenault, who worked for the Nady concerts, the Omni, the Stone,
Oh,
and
Northern California.
yes, yeah. And
Yeah,
I
I
think
played those places when I was like a teenager, back in the old days. Like when I first started playing music, when I was in my teens, we would play the Omni and the Stone and a lot of those venues. But I was originally from Sacramento, but a lot of my early years was going to see Testament and Exodus and Slayer and uh,
right.
all those bands, Defiance, Machine Head, all that thrash metal at the Omni and the Stone in the old days, and Ruthless Inn and all that stuff.
Man, those are good times, aren't they? I mean,
Long time ago. I was probably 14, 15 years old sneaking into those places,
uh,
playing bars and clubs.
yeah. The other room I worked at was a room called the Oasis, but I don't think you ever played there. I don't know if you ever played the Edge.
The
Um,
the Edge, I remember. Now that I think about it, I do remember the Edge, and I think I remember Oasis, but I do remember the Edge. That was like the cool spot for a minute too, right? For like
yeah,
thrash metal.
yeah. They Jimmy booked a lot of bands in there. Yeah, we had a ton of bands that rolled through there in the '90s.
Yeah,
Um, he came over. He worked with Dean Delroy over at Nady, so he was booking the Omni, the Stone, and One Step Beyond.
yeah.
That,
One step beyond.
right, right. Uh, yeah, I didn't really reveal all that to our good friend James from the Friendly Men that how extensive that is. I worked for 10 years there, but that's why I was really excited to be able to talk to you, because it's really cool to talk to somebody who we can talk a little music. I'm not a musician.
Well,
I can't.
when I was younger, I was originally from Sacramento, so uh, I was playing at this place called the Cattle Club in the old days. But like I said, it was going to San Francisco was like a thing all the time.
Yeah, San Francisco was lit there for a while. They still have one small club left flying the banner. It was actually, to me, it was the best club flying the banner, and that was Bottom of the Hill. I think
Bottom of the Hill.
Yeah, it's Ramona Downey.
Bottom of the Hill and Slims.
Slims closed.
Mm.
Yeah, Slims went away during the pandemic. They did not
I played there just a few years ago. I think with we were on tour with Mushroom Head, and we played Slims. I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago or something. I hadn't been there in years since I was a teen.
Wow. Now, are you
Maritime Hall, right?
Oh, right. Yes, the Maritime Hall. They had that there for a long time, but I think that one closed too. But I think it closed after 2000. A lot of the venues are gone, like the DNA Lounge is gone. I believe. I think Paradise is gone. That was the other major venue.
Yeah.
There
was another place that used to have shows on Sundays, like Covered Wagon or.
Oh, yep, the Covered Wagon.
Is that right?
Yes. And then over in Berkeley's they had the punk rock club over there. Oh gosh, what was that one?
Oh,
wow. I just slipped my brain.
Gilman Street.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're Rancid and all. Fang, one of my buddy Sammy Town's band, Fang, we used to play Gilman Street.
I want to say hello to everybody that's coming in. Our good friend Ant Review Things is here. Maverick is here. Mr. Dan and Whore is here. Thank you. Dave, thank you for coming in. I appreciate that. Jonas is here. All right.
Jonas.
Yeah. This is going to be a lot of fun. I see we're doing dual stream. I'm doing a new thing here for me. I'm doing a dual stream where it's going through YouTube and it's also going through my Facebook. And so I saw a Facebook user there. I want to say hello to that person. Let me see who it is real quick. Yeah, Facebook won't let me see the person who's talking. That's a little crazy. Let's see. I had to refresh this here. There we go. Let me see who said that. David said that. Thank you, David, for coming in. All right. This is new, and now I'm balancing two rooms, but that's nothing new. So not only one of the things I mentioned to the chat before you got here was, you and I are going to be talking movies as well, because if there's one thing people, band members love, it's movies, because you guys get on the bus and you guys are traveling from date to date, and you guys got to keep yourself busy, and you guys love movies.
I have a gigantic horror collection. Oh yeah, over there.
Yeah, we can see some. Yeah, I see some of that.
Man, I don't ever watch DVDs anymore, and it's been probably years since I ever even fucked with them. But like internet goes down or something, But and a lot of the films that I have, you can't get on like Amazon or anything like that. So I still keep them. You know what I mean? I still have this big stack of them over there. Probably like 500 or 600 movies.
Yeah, you're definitely a cinephile. So definitely the love of horror. What have you been watching lately? What movies have really caught your eye or your ear?
I just watched. What did I just watch? Terrifier 2, which is a newer one. I pretty much stick to older stuff. I did recently. I watched the interview with the new interview with the vampire and the Mayfield Witches, the AMC stuff, which is pretty cool. I mean, for television stuff, but overall, like the stuff that I like, it's not there's not a lot of newer stuff that I feel like fits in the genre. You know what I mean? Like newer horror, there is cool stuff, but I tend to always go backwards, you know, back to the older stuff, the old Italian, um, you know, the staples of
Argento and
Argento, Fulci those are probably two of my favorites. The first two rows are right there are probably every Argento film and every Lucio Fulci film, which are my favorites by far. You know, and then the classics. You know, Children of the Damned. I love the old black and white movies.
Yes.
The classics. I mean, I always refer back to Black Sunday with Barbara Steele, Horror Hotel, which is the Cities of the Dead, Return of the Living Dead, Grapes of Death. I have such a huge collection. You know, I'll see something that someone will post, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I think my friend Nikki Crypt, she had posted something about Necromantic," and I was like, "Oh, I forgot about those movies, Necromantic 1 and Necromantic 2."
Right.
All those kind of gory, really, you know, low budge type vibe, and especially black and white. I don't know why. There's something about, you know, an old black and white horror film. You know, I think it's a lot of the silence in between.
I think it forces you to use your imagination as well, too. You know, I think, you know, it's not really, you know, when you see a black and white, I think you're forced to use your imagination because you're imagining the blood and whatnot, even though it's black and white. But, you know, you're seeing that, you're starting to think about what would that really look like, you know, in real time, you know, where we see it in color, we see, okay, it's gory, we see that. But I think black and white forces us to use our imagination more.
Yeah, and I think that the way that the audio is, then it's not, you know, there's not a lot on top of each other. It's literally just dialogue and silence, you know?
Right.
It gives a kind of a calming vibe. If you're watching even the old, I mean, they were made in the 30s and 40s, but Dracula and those films are just so cool like that. But I would say by far, probably my favorite is Black Sunday with Barbara Steele. Just the opening of that film, you know, the way that they bring her out and tie her up, and the mask of death on her face with the spikes and everything, and it's one of my favorites.
Now, I have a question for you, Jerry, real quick. Now, if you guys are all on the bus, right? You guys just get off a concert, you know, you guys kicked ass, you guys troop on the bus, and then you know, and you guys all relaxed. Who gets to pick the movie?
It's just kind of a thing that usually just gets thrown in, you know. I mean, a lot of times on the buses, you have your own TV in the bed too. So if you have DVDs, that's always good. You just put it in, you know.
Oh, because I always wondered about that. I was like,
it usually ends up being something that's dumb and funny that just gets played over and over again. You know what I mean? Like What We Do in the Shadows or something, you know, like on repeat forever. Or Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas has always been one that seems to always be thrown in and kind of left on repeat forever, you know?
Right. So before we started talking, you know, I've been trying to catch up with your career, because you've had an outstanding career, and it's still going strong. So let's talk a little bit about your musical background a little bit. Even though I know that you've been asked some of these questions to dust, I'm gonna try to avoid those. It's going to be hard to do since you're such a well-known personality and a great musician. But I do try to ask the questions that you don't get asked a lot. So tell us about your current project that you're working on right now. What is Jerry Montano doing today?
Right now, today, I'm starting a record. So I've been going back and forth with the drummer. Over the past, like, almost about a year. I had been dabbling in Logic and just learning to record better and stuff at home throughout the pandemic. I mean, I was doing a lot of video editing and learning, you know, over the past like 2 years, I had jumped into a lot of like really learning Final Cut Pro and lots of video editing, and then recording, which is cool because usually it's attached to like 3 other fucking assholes or something, you know, which is cool. You get in a room, you do it. But being able to, you know, I have 4-track recorders where I would kind of piece together my ideas and then bring it, you know, to the band or whatever. But now I'm, you know, I can realize the entire picture, do all the drums, do everything. And when I started, when I was younger, I actually started as singing, but I wasn't really much of a singer, like a metal, you know, growly, whatever. But throughout my teens, I always played bass and sang in all my first bands growing up, you know, just not even really because of any other reason. Is just that I could never find anybody and everybody sucked or whatever, or people would quit or whatever. And I was kind of one of those guys that was like, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I'll just do it all myself, you know?
Right.
So fast forward, you know, 30 years later, I've just been writing a lot. So I had written 10, 15 songs over the past like 10, 11 months in between touring with Stephen Pearcy. And, you know, throwing down some vocals, enjoying it, just having fun with it, but writing songs in kind of a different vibe, more of just to create something and write something without the intent of really giving a fuck if anybody ever hears it or what they think about it or how it would be perceived or heard, or if it's ever going to be heard or if it's ever going to come out. I just wrote, just enjoying doing it for myself, you know?
So where do you write at? Do you have your studio at home? Do you sit there, or do you do what a lot of people do and grab your laptop and head to a coffee shop to write?
No, I have a home studio.
So you play while you write. Like you'll hit a lyric, grab the bass or the guitar and play it out.
It's just more like, you know, I'll plug in my guitar and, you know, throw down like a scratch drum thing and just kind of play around, and I'll be like, oh, I like that. And then kind of, you know, change it up to where I kind of like the flow of it, and it'll end up being like, okay, that's a cool verse, that's a cool chorus. And then kind of map the whole thing out, you know, and it'll usually just take me to wherever it's supposed to take me. I mean, it isn't really something that takes a lot of thought. It's just kind of like, you know, think if you have a puzzle, but it only has like 5 pieces. You're like, okay, here's this.
Those are some of the most difficult puzzles too, though, sometimes, aren't they?
But you know, like Zakk Wylde always said, if you're thinking, you're stinking. You know what I mean? Like if you're, you know, if you have to really put a lot of work into it, to me, then that just means it's just not working, and I'll just put it away and then just go on to something else or shut it down for the night and then give it a fresh listen the next day, or just completely start writing something else. But so that's kind of where I've been, just writing all these songs, and then, you know, they came out really cool to where I'm proud of them, and I think it's something that I want to do. So, you know, it's different. It's not really in the metal genre that people are used to me doing. It's more in a kind of a rock and roll punk rock vibe, Turbo Negro, Social Distortion, Bad Religion, you know, kind of I'm sold. In that vibe. Well, that's the stuff that when I was a kid, I first obviously started with Kiss. Kiss was, you know, my world, you know.
Weren't they doing their last tour when you first discovered them?
No, I discovered them in the 70s. But I mean, when I was 5 years old, my walls were covered in Kiss posters. I mean, I remember being like 5, 6 years old, and the second that I saw this like demon fire blood skull boots, I was sold. It was over for me. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted. I remember my grandparents taking me to like Montgomery Wards when I was a little kid. Like, okay, we're gonna buy you a BB gun. And I was like, I don't want that. I just want the Kiss record. And I think that at that year Dynasty had come out, so they were already in there, you know, long after. But I just had to have that record. You know what I mean? And right. That was my whole thing. But fast forward later, as a teen, it was Venom, Celtic Frost, Slayer, Metallica, you know, like a lot of the like almost satanic metal. And then I got into, you know, after Venom and all that stuff, I started to find like Testament and Exodus and you know, all the staples of the San Francisco thrash scene. You know what I mean?
A lot of it too. Man,
so
they San Francisco put out a lot of great bands.
Oh yeah, I mean everything from Violence, Defiance, Lost Rock. I mean, it just goes on forever. But a lot of those bands I would go and see as a teenager. I was really heavily into that, and you know, I was playing, and I would get to open up for some of those bands. I remember, I think I must have been like 15, and we were opening up for Forbidden on Twisted Into Form, and me and Craig ended up being friends, still friends to this day from Forbidden. And you know, we opened up for Corrosion of Conformity on the Blind album. You know, I mean, looking back now, that was crazy because I was a huge COC fan. Right. Now I'm friends with Pepper. For, you know, he lived in my house many years back. But going back to where we were, I was always, you know, as a teen, I was always into like the heavier stuff. But probably when I was like 16, 17, when I found Social Distortion, and then Social Distortion led me straight to Bad Religion. And then Bad Religion, you know, sent me to like Descendants. And then next thing you know, you go down Black Flag, you know, on and on and on. And then, you know, in the early 90s is when the Fat Mike thing hit really hard, and it was NoFX, Lagwagon, Pennywise.
Oh, Fat Mike, you know, he was on the night. He's one of the nicest guys.
Yeah. When I was a teen, I kind of spent a lot of time with NoFX because I was friends with them when I was really young, you know, the guitar player. So I was around all that stuff during that whole time, you know, like all those shows and the first Warped Tour and all that stuff. But so through my love of all that, you know, like this whole, you know, there came a time in probably like, you know, like the 92, 93 or whatever, whenever that started happening, where I cut off all my hair and I was just like Face to Face, you know, Bad Religion, you know.
Right.
And so
there's a lot of metal bands that once the grunge hit, I mean, because you know, metal was king in the 80s, you know, back when the MTV started. I mean, it was king. I mean, you turn on MTV and you always saw a rock and roll band there. But man, when grunge hit and took over, a lot of those bands, they try to change their sound up. They try to change their appearance up. They try to make, you know, I can understand the appearance, but trying to change your sound in the middle of what you've worked so hard to establish.
It's funny. It's funny when they say that a lot, but I mean, right around that time is when Pantera probably hit the hardest. You know what I mean? Like Pantera, Vulgar came out right probably in the middle of all that and was gigantic. And Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction, and the Black Album. So I mean, there was still, it was death for the cheese ball fucking hair 80s bands and that kind of crap, you know what I mean? But I even as a kid, I never liked that music. I never liked that music. I was never into, even though I played with the guy from Rat, I was never in. I mean, when I was a little kid, I liked that, but as a teenager, I was never into like any of that stuff. You know, like
Yeah, seemed like
I was doing shows this past couple of years with bands that some of them I never heard of, a lot of them I just could never stand. Like it would be like a Slaughter or something. I'd be like,
right.
I hate this. I hated this band then, and I hate them worse now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because some of their music just never aged well. You go back you go here on YouTube and you punch in some of these bands up, and man, you hear some of those records, and man, you're sort of embarrassed for your generation and for my generation, going like, man, you have to go to somebody, sit there and say, yeah, Twisted. Twisted Sister was considered a big thing back then, and then you have to turn your head because people are just going to clown on you.
Well, Twisted Sister to me is different. I mean, they're more classic. I like that stuff, and I'd watch our documentary a few times, and I've played with Dee Snider, super nice guy. I've played those songs with him. But some of that other stuff, like the Wingers and Slaughters and all that silly, goofy shit, like I don't fucking get it. I never did then. You know what I mean? I could, I'd just be like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't know, but
one of the stories, because this as well, and we could talk about this a little bit, is, a lot of those bands too, and how many bands have you seen this happen to? But back there in the 80s and the 90s, hell, even with the formation of Danzig, Danzig was not an organic band. It played a showcase for Rick Rubin, right? They played showcase.
No, it's pretty organic. I mean, you got to understand.
He changed the members. He said, yeah, and that happens all the time.
I mean, it's definitely organic because he had been playing Max's Kansas City in the 70s with the Misfits and traveling across the country with, playing with Black Flag and, even Social Distortion in 82, 83, playing with Minor Threat. You know what I mean? Bad Brains. They came up in that. So they were already... They were doing that forever. And then they went on to Samhain and they did that for a long time. So then by the time they changed it to Danzig, it was just a name change, I think, at the time, because most of it was going to be Samhain at that point in time before they switched it over, So I wouldn't say that it wasn't organic with him. He was probably more organic than most.
I'll explain a little better. So punk labels like Epitaph or Fat Records or what have you, or even Sub Pop or what that sort of thing, CZ Records, whatnot. They just signed the bands. But down in Los Angeles, and even to the extent again with Rick Rubin from American, when they played a showcase, and a lot of times you would have a core band. It'd be like you and your three buddies, and you guys been playing in the garage and everything else. And then you go to chance to get in front of a showcase. You go down there and play the showcase, and then the major label would come up to you and sit there and say, "Yeah, we like your sound a lot, but we don't necessarily like a couple of your band members." So
I've done a shit ton of those showcases.
Oh my gosh! Now, how does that feel, knowing that you walked in the venue together, right? 4 or 5 guys, friends, brothers, brothers in arms, brothers in music. You walk in there with the hope of getting a deal, and then you go ahead and play, and then some guy comes up there and says, "Well, yeah, you might be able to. We'll sign you, but you got to lose 2 people."
They've never. I've never experienced that, honestly. I mean, I've been signed to 4 major labels, and whenever I even signed a Fred Durst label, Flawless at Interscope, when that was like the biggest thing in the world. And we never had any of that kind of, I never really had any of that kind of vibe or anything like that. When you do those showcases, it's exciting because it means that someone's interested, someone that is real, that has money, is willing to take a gamble and possibly make your dream come true. It's different than it is now, compared to the way it was then. Back then, you could walk into a showcase and walk out with $1 million record deal, which I personally have done before.
How's it different now? Is it because to me it does seem like the music industry it's sort of gone back to its roots. Back when you first started out, you would tour on a 45. You pile into the bus and go tour on a 45. You were selling singles, and then it came out to selling records. Now it seems like back down to selling singles again. I mean, not very many bands.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of factors I think involved, and I think one of them is just the attention span of a younger generation that doesn't have a strong attachment to things, really, or a very long attention span. So, and also things change so fast now with the internet and with so much flying at you, that does it really make sense anymore to spend a year writing an entire record, spend 3.5 months recording the record, and then spend another 3 to 4 months of setup before the record comes out. You're so far behind of anything that now you can do a single, put it out, have it out there. If it hits, good, and it keeps things more current. And people just don't really have the attention for a lot of songs. That being said, I'm doing a record right now, but
we have a question here for you. How did you end up you and Glenn end up getting up together?
Well, I had met him in the early, in 98, 99. And one of my bands in LA, we had already played with Danzig, open up for them on Halloween, or open up for him on this show, that show, type of a thing in Hollywood when he would have a little show. So I got to know him over a short period of time, but a very good friend of mine, Crazy Craig, who I was really tight with, he worked for him. So once he started working for him, that brought me in the fold to be able to get to know him more. And then Johnny Kelly from Typo Negative, who's probably one of my 5 closest friends on the planet, he ended up getting the gig playing drums when Joey C had left. And so the second that Howie Pyro was leaving the band, he kind of called me, and Glenn already knew me and liked me and knew that I, aesthetically I fit the band. So he just was like, you don't have to audition, just you're in the band. You want the gig, you're in. So it was kind of
why does that happen a lot, Jerry? Why? I mean, a band like as successful as Danzig, why do you, in your opinion, why is there such turnover? I've always been fascinated by that. I mean,
there's a lot of reasons. I mean, it could be, people don't get along. Some people are made for the long haul. Some people aren't. I mean, a lot of times you find bands where a guy had left the band because of a drug or an addiction issue, or some people just aren't cut out to go out and do this all the time. Like for me, I'm more than comfortable going out, and I've over, even in the past 6 years, I go out on road and I'll happily stay gone 4 straight months with never stepping foot in my house. You know what I mean? Some people just can't handle that, and they'll crack under that kind of pressure of, some people stress out over 8-week tours. I mean, I was used to doing 16, 20, 24 weeks out, literally, coming back 4 months later, 5 months later, and doing that for a cycle for a year and a half, of constant touring. But see, for me, I love it and I enjoy it. I'm made for that. But a lot of people aren't. So when you look at bands that go through members, a lot of times I've seen it many times where dudes crack. You know what I mean? They're like crying, they can't take it, they gotta go home, and you're just like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, we're playing music, man. Like, all you gotta do is like take a shower, go to sleep, and wake up and wait 10 hours and do it again, But again, some people just aren't, not everybody's made for it. But then also, you got a lot of inner workings in a band, you got different temperaments, different attitudes, somebody's the boss and somebody might talk, whatever it is. It's like anything, I think that you'll find most people that stay the longest are probably the most passive people. You learn over many, many years of doing this that if anything ever bothers you, it's better just to let it go, because it's not going to matter in 4 hours. It's not going to matter tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you're upset about, it's not going to matter tomorrow. So, but if you make a big deal out of something, that can matter tomorrow. You know what I mean? A lot of people make those mistakes, including myself in certain points in my career.
As far as that goes, is a band. I mean, when you come in, like maybe come in from the outside of a band, is the person's voice respected as much because they're new, because maybe they haven't toured with the new band a lot? Is it true that they basically have to earn their stripes, even though you're good enough, you're invited to join the band? But does that new band member, do they have to? Is there a hierarchy within the band that the newest guy is always on the bottom until he earns his way up, or
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. You fucking set up sprinklers, right? That's your job. You've been doing it for 35 years. It's your company. You have a certain way. You know how to fucking lay it out, dig the ditch, get the shit done. You train your guys. And then, a guy comes in after a week and is like, you know what? I think I don't agree with that. I think we should start doing this. You're kind of like, maybe you should kind of just shut up for a while and learn what's going on. And then once you learn what's going on, then you can kind of better assess it. And I think it's that way with anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Coming into, you got to think of it as any kind of, it's a job when you're a hired guy. With a lot of these type of gigs that I've done, and a lot of us in this community and in this business do, you have to remind yourself, this is a job. You know what I mean?
I always thought being in a band was more of a passion, than a job. I always thought it because there's 4 or 5 people who just love each other and they want to play music together, and they're united. It always just really tripped me out really hard, because I remember even as a buyer, I have you have your favorite bands, right? Just you're human, and I still remember the first time where a local band, which I really really liked, and all of a sudden I remember, because the members came to me separately, and they're sitting there talking about the dynamics of the band, like, I don't think we're going to be able to keep this person, or I don't think I'm going to be able to stay. I got to tell you, Jerry, I was hurt. I was upset. I was like, wait, I don't want to see you guys break apart. You guys are like family. It's like, I didn't see it as, because I wasn't in the band per se, but I just couldn't get over the idea that this happens. Bands break up, and it's like, it's always been fascinating to me, other than the addiction aspect of it, why bands separate.
Well, I mean, you got to think it. I mean, it's hard to be in a relationship with your wife or your girlfriend after 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Imagine having 4 of them. You know what I mean? Four different people that have 4 different outlooks, or 5 people that see things differently, that change over time. You know what I mean? It's there's it's always a little hard, I think, sometimes in bands like that because of that situation. Personally, for me, with what I've been doing more so over the past like decade, it's more hired gun stuff. So it's more like, it's more uh mechanical. You know what I mean? I know what day my flight is. I know what day I'm leaving. I get my bags. I show up to the hotel. I know what time bus call is. I show up prepared, show up ready, go on stage, do my show, go to my hotel, rest, do the next thing. It's, you know what I mean?
Now, as a workman, as a professional, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that. But as you seem to be a passionate person. Is
You find your
as being a hired gun, is that something? Would you rather be in a band with four of your friends, or would you rather be in a band where you got hired in, as a slinger?
well, you can kind of do both. You know what I mean? That's what I've been doing for years. Um, the hired gun thing is, it's more of it's a professional situation. I don't I don't mind it that much. I like, over the years, the cool thing about it is, as an artist or a musician, I've learned to adapt musically, to be able to fit into other bands, to be able to play other music, to be able to sit in and do things. So I like that element of it, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's different when it was like, the Deadlights or Hellyeah or Nothingface, to where it's our band and we created it, and it's, you know, 4 or 5 fucking friends, you know what I mean? But it's still hard then too, you know? Um
I
I
do think a hired slinger, to me, it's like that's the top of, as far as the talent wise goes. When you get hired in like that, session, I guess they call them session players or slingers. I mean, you definitely have reached the top of your game. I mean, because it isn't easy just to walk in there and not everybody can do that. Yeah, I play bass guitar. Okay, but can you walk inside that band, that band, that band, that band, all with different sounds and play? It's just same at the same level every time you go. A lot of people can't. They can play, maybe they can play rock really well, but maybe they can't play heavy metal very well. They can't play thrash well. They can only play certain genres. The fact that you can go bounce from band to band, it speaks volumes of your skill set. I mean, definitely.
I mean,
You,
I've never, you know, I've never considered myself the greatest player, but I love what I do and I'm good at what I do, and I can adapt and learn, I would say over the past like 5 years, one of my very good friends, Ira Black, him and his wife, they do a thing called the Ultimate Jam Night at the Whiskey. And it started out at this other venue, but they would just have like, this guy from that band, this guy from that band. I play with all different people, from Don Dokken or whoever, just random people. Um, and then they'll just say, it's this song. You guys are going to play this song tonight. You're going to play these 2 songs. And you just show up, you learn the songs, and you show up and go on stage and play. But over the past like 5 years of doing that, I really enjoy, or 6 years, I don't know, maybe longer, maybe 7 years, but I enjoy doing it because it kind of puts you in the fire and you can get up and then you're like, okay, here we go. Do you know it? You know it. And, play. But I think that helped me even grow more as a musician, just being able to kind of gel with people that I don't even know, people I've never played with, and like walk on a stage in front of 400 or 500 people and just go. Um, and I enjoy that now. It's something that a lot of people that I played with in the past never had that ability and didn't move on or progress in their careers. But a lot of other people I've watched progress and be higher guys and be able to do that. And I'm pretty proud that I was able to do that and that I can, you know. Um, So it's cool, you know.
Um, what you've played on several different bands. You've been to different places. Um, if you could put together your top 4 players to play with you in your ultimate band of the bands you've been in,
Oh,
what 4 guys would you go into battle with?
oh, with members from my old bands.
Of all your old bands, hit me 4 people besides yourself. Who would you pick to make your ultimate band?
It'd be easy. It'd be my best friend and guitar player Tom Maxwell. I played with for ever, and we created Hellyeah and did Nothingface together. My favorite person to play with, bar none, and kind of like what I consider my musical soulmate. You know what I mean? Him and I, we can go in a room and we can sit down and come out with 3-4 songs in a few hours. You know what I mean? It's just how we are. And we can plug in and it's gigantic and it's just on. We just have this thing. It works perfectly. So I would say Tom Maxwell, Vinnie Paul, of course, greatest drummer. And singer wise, it's hard to say. I mean, I think my favorite singer that I ever played with is Glenn, you know? So it would have to be Glenn.
Uh, so I always wanted to know this, and maybe you could tell me. He always personified the evil part, the Satanism part. Was that him, or was that a gimmick to sell records?
No, that's him.
Okay. I was just wondering about that. It's like, because you get a lot of, I think the only other person I met that I truly believed that was like into that real dark shit was probably King Diamond. That guy he's out there.
And see, and the funny thing is I've hung out with King Diamond many times, and he didn't come off that way at all to me.
Yeah,
not even.
I think musicians see each other differently from the public.
Well,
I think if you and I are both looking at the same picture,
yeah,
the outsider's not going to see it the same way as you would as the insider.
No, from the outside, King Diamond, yeah, that seems that way. But Kim, the guy, just the nicest, sweetest dude. Nothing evil about him at all.
Yeah, because he must have stayed in character with us, because he was pretty fearsome, and it was a different kind of animal, that's for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, but though sometimes that happens. Sometimes that happens. So you mentioned about being on the road. That I think I can understand a little bit of that. Is that the reason why band members? That's why bands go on shorter. It seems like they go on shorter tours these days. Before, they'd be piling in the van and you'd be gone for 6-7 months. It does seem now, whenever you read about a band, short of a arena band, a lot of the bands are just doing smaller tours. Is that because they've recognized that it's a psychological thing and they want to stay fresh, so they go on smaller tours, or is it just because they just didn't find the venues to play in?
It's money, man. I mean, gas costs a lot of money. Buses run on gas. You gotta when you put in you gotta figure out the equation. Like when gas is really high, it's a pain in the ass, and it doesn't make any sense to do it. So I think that it's more of a money thing, and also you got to think, like I've always said, the entire music business is one fucking gigantic t-shirt company. That's all it is. You know what I mean? And so, and you see with ticket prices going up and going up, you look at Cleveland, Ohio, these like the sweet spots where the rock world just thrives still, right?
Right.
Everybody knows that. That's where the crowds are. But how many bands are there touring? Everybody's out touring, and that there's just the guarantees go down. people can only afford X amount of $35 club tickets. That's just a club ticket. A real ticket is $200 to $1,000. If you want to go see Kiss or something, you know, you're going to pay $700. Do you know what I mean? So I think that with the amount of bands out there doing it, people can only go see so much. It only makes sense. And with the price of gas and the overhead to stay out there, you know, if you're a band with crew, with a bus, with all the workings that it takes, makes it happen every day, you know, you can't do that on, you know, if you can't do that for $10,000 a day. You know, you can, you're not going to end up with much money.
No.
Or 20 grand. You know what I mean? You got to be, and then when you start getting the upper bracket to where you're making that kind of money, say $30,000 to $50,000, well, the kind of band that makes 30, say 50,000 and up, their production is much bigger. Their crowds are bigger, production's bigger, so it equals itself out. You know, I think that you're seeing a lot of bands. I was just, you know, I had just read or talked to my buddy David Draymond from Disturbed, and they're like, dude, a lot of our tours, we just said, fuck it. It doesn't make money. You know, like it has to make sense for us to go out and do it. So that's why you're seeing
that's where bands make money at. They make their money on the live shows and the merchandise.
Right. So you'll see a band. So it might make more sense to go, you know, 5 in a row, or, you know, 2 weeks of shows, West Coast, East Coast, clean up, go home. You know what I mean? You got to think everybody, bus, gas, hotel rooms, everything that goes involved, you know, it costs a lot.
It does. I
think that people aren't making this, people aren't paying as much, and tickets are becoming more expensive. It just gets harder. It seems like more and more that, as you know, in the early 2000s, when we were, you know, even first going to Europe, the festivals were gigantic over in Europe forever. It was a thing always there, you know. Festivals weren't a thing in the United States until way later. We didn't catch on to that shit until
that's how Europe did it, and they did it well.
They'd been doing it forever, but we didn't even catch on to it really until the past like 10 years, you know. And but with that being said, now there are so many big, you know, at the time there were radio shows that did the same thing, but now that festivals have caught on in the States, it seems like people would rather go in the summer, see all like 50 bands that they want to see, and they save up to go do, you know, the 4 or 5 big concert tour festival shows, and then sporadically go see club stuff or things in between. So I think that the market has changed as well, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that. I've even seen even bands that are doing now they're doing they go on ships. They'll grab like 5 or 6 bands and put them on a cruise ship, and they'll go out there, and each band will play 1 to 2 sets during a 7 to 10 day cruise, which is really
yeah. I mean, that's been going on for a while. The Monsters of Rock cruise and the Kiss cruise, 70,000 tons of metal, you know.
Yeah,
there's a bunch. They have them for everything, which is cool. There's a lot of it in kind of the hair band thing. Oh, Shiprocked, that's another one. But you know, as the crowds have grown older, the fans have gotten older. A lot of them have money to be able to do those things. You know what I mean? So, you know,
do you see a lot of young people on your tours? Do you see, you know, kids, you know, teenagers and whatnot? Do you see them a lot at live shows? Now I haven't been to a live show. I haven't been in like 15 years. So
for the past 2 years, I've been playing with the guy from Rat. So those people are like, you know, 50 and up. So it's like playing like a lot of people, but it's like playing a state fair type of a thing. You know what I mean? So it's different. It's different than say playing with Hellyeah or Danzig, where it's more of still kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a relevant.
Well, you guys are. I mean,
metal, you know what I mean? Like still doing things compared to doing those things where those things are fun. It's all work, but that is doing kind of like like a state fair circuits, which is still cool. It's the same. You get paid good. You go do your thing and it's done, but it's different. You know what I mean? So in the past few years, have I seen younger people? No, because I was doing that thing, you know what I mean? Which is a totally different situation.
right.
But with Nothingface or with doing something like a demo or something newer with one of those bands, yes, we see younger fans all the time.
What do you like doing the best? You like playing the small venues better than the bigger venues? I mean, if you had a chance to play in front of 1,000 people versus 50,000, what do you what
You know,
would you what would you
I'll
what would
always,
you rather
I would always rather play in front of 50,000.
Yeah.
But
There's actually some artists that don't. And that's why I asked the question. There's some that they just get out there and they just they feel like their sound gets lost out there. So
I mean, it depends. You know what I mean? Like, though it's like saying, it's like the person who says that they don't usually can't. You know what I mean?
uh,
Like I wouldn't want to be number one Billboard. I would never want to be a Rihanna. Well, you can't, but if you could, trust me, you would. You know what I
right.
mean? Um, but that being said, I like both. They're different. You know what I mean? There's a difference. There's a certain rush that comes with 15,000. That's great and it's fucking awesome. But there's also that cool vibe of doing, 200-300 in a club or 500 kids.
Right.
It's more packed in. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
definitely more hands on. But they're different. You know what I mean? Would I rather do a hot, sweaty, dying club or 15,000 in a comfy dressing room? I think I'd rather do 15,000.
You said something the other day, and I wanted to bring this up too because you posted it out there, and I want to say first of all, congratulations, by the way. You celebrated 9 year sobriety. Um, now, now you and I both know that the rock and world is brutal when it comes down to addictions. Uh, I'm sure you've seen your fair share of friends in the business who have died, and as I have. What why do you think that is? Do you think did you feel when you first started out that you had to do that to be able to fit in? Did you ever feel like you needed to do that to write music or play music? Where do you think that started at? I've always like to me, and I don't know, maybe you can comment on this too, but to me it's like blues players, people who play the blues. Oh Lord have mercy. I don't know what it is, but it always seems like they always have to climb onto the horse. It's like in order for me to feel the blues, I got to shoot. Is that a mentality that that musicians have going into the business? Is it something they pick up from other peers? What's your opinion about addiction and rock and music?
I think it's hard to say because every individual is different. You know what I mean? I've been around every type. You know what I mean? I could only speak for myself, but I've seen different things. Some people, I've seen people that are um, utterly, tormented, you know, that it's like an escape that they, that are, that just, that drugs or alcohol as an utter escape and it's not a social fun thing. I've seen people that glamorized it and wanted to be it because it was the cool thing to do. Like, you know, Lane Staley's so awesome because he was a junkie and he died, or
I don't get that. I feel that's so fucking tragic.
right.
You know, it's tragic.
And then I've been in bands with guys that were like that, and they died like that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
really.
And it was kind of like one of those, like, be careful for what you wish for. You know what I mean? Like it's real. So I don't think that you can really pinpoint why or what. We're all different. You know, for me, you know, I was a hardcore alcoholic, you know, but it wasn't like I want to be an alcoholic. It was just like, okay, I go out with my friends, we get drunk, and I had the most fun of my life. So I want to do that again tomorrow. I want to do that again tomorrow. I want to do that. I just wanted more, 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 more. You know what I mean? I always say I didn't have a problem with my drinking. Everybody else did. You know what I mean? My feelings never got hurt. You know what I mean? But at some point in your life, you have to take responsibility, you know, and it's like, I've said this many times, you know, it's like if you take the dial on a dimmer switch on a light and you just ever slightly turn it over 15 years, a little at a time, before you know it, you'll be in pitch darkness. And you're like, how did that happen? I swear there was light here before. Wasn't there? And you don't know the difference. And over time, you go down that thing. I mean, I have friends that can drink and have the best time of their life. I have friends that can fucking, you know, blow fucking rails and fucking drink and still like, yeah, you know what I mean? But then I have a lot that most of them are all dead. And then some people can handle it and some people can't. I think that, like I said, with the dimmer switch, you know, you can turn into something that you never imagined that you would over a long period of time, you know, and find yourself being really unhappy and terrible to people around you based on your company. You know what I mean?
Do you think addiction plays? Do you think addiction plays, as you know, as far as breaking up bands or what have you? You think addiction is probably one of the top 3 reasons for it? You know, they after a while they just disintegrate because
I mean, sometimes. I mean, I've been in that situation where I've been the guy, and I've been in the situation where it's been the other guy. I think that bands have so many moving components, you know. It's hard to really, you know, pinpoint what really breaks up bands. I mean, what breaks up bands is bands are made of people, you know. Yeah. I mean, and people grow apart, people get along, people don't get along, you know. I think you would find that most of the people, I would be willing to bet that most bands that have been doing it over a long period of time, probably the key to them doing it is probably less personal. Like, they probably don't ever see each other. You know what I mean? It's probably more of
when you came off tour, did you guys how often how long, you know, let's say Nothingface, when after you guys get done touring, you say, okay, you know, we'll just go away, you know, get that break from each other. Did you guys stay in touch with each other while that happened? I mean, do you guys talk to each other?
With Nothingface, Tom and I are so close, it was always kind of him and I, you know what I mean? So the other guys, you know, we would kind of disperse and go our separate ways. But it was always kind of Tom Maxwell and I would always talk no matter what. I actually talked to him yesterday. Okay. But overall, in most bands, yeah, it's kind of like, hey, bye. You know, see you in 4 weeks. See you in a couple months.
So how do you protect yourself now? How do you protect your sobriety? Do you have a personal writer built in to, because I've seen this too.
No,
Do you have a do you have a personal writer built in to make sure that you're served nothing like that? Because because you know how crazy those writers can get.
no. I mean, it's I just don't drink, so it's nothing. It's nothing I'm interested in doing. So for me, I would never. I don't have to. I'm not uncomfortable being around people that drink. I'm not like white knuckling it anymore. It's been so long that it's not something that I think about. You know what I mean? I'm not like worried about the other guys getting drunk, or I'm not gonna just because everybody else is drinking doesn't mean I'm gonna do it, or
Yeah, right. Yeah, you've gotten to that place. Good for you, man. I was really impressed when I saw that you announced
It
that.
might have been harder if I was younger. You know what I mean? In my younger years, it would be like
Sure.
everybody else is doing it. But as you grow up, you grow out of a lot of that shit. You know what I mean? Like getting a getting my shit together and getting away from abusing alcohol and drugs helped me get away from a lot of that stuff, because in the early years it would be like you would gauge how terrible you are as not being as bad as the guy that's next to you. You know what I mean? Like everybody cheats on their wives, but I only cheat every once in a while. You know what I mean? It's still cheating. It's lying. You have to take responsibility. So over time, you grow out of those things, you get your shit together, and then I'm just responsible for me. But I know what I know what I'm gonna do or not gonna do. If there's a beer sitting right here in front of me, I won't have any. It isn't like I'm like, oh fuck, I got to get that out of here. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. It's something. You said something
But
earlier, which
if
really.
there's Starbucks, then I'll have to drink it. So
Oh hell yeah! That's an addiction I can get behind
yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm addicted to coffee too.
So
coffee,
keep,
coffee
yeah,
is my friend.
keep the Starbucks away.
Oh.
But yeah,
Oh
it's
my
definitely
God.
like
Go
that.
away, man. You know what? That should be on the rider or the first thing.
Well, yeah,
Jerry
we didn't have.
Montano's rider
Yeah,
must have Starbucks.
yes. I swear it is like that. My girlfriend, she buys like go get the Starbucks coffees, and then I just end up drinking the whole fucking thing. But
Oh,
on tour, with the non-alcoholic beers and stuff, every once in a while, if there's one of those, I'll be like, "Woohoo! I'm partying tonight. I'll have no duels."
right, right. We had a bartender at the Edge. We had a bartender at the Edge. I don't know how he did it. He was a admitted alcoholic. He went to meetings every day, but he was a bartender. And man, I just sit there and we all sit there just like look at him in wonderment, like, how the hell are you doing this?
It, it's
And yet
because you're not
he
gonna
was
do
rock
it.
solid. He was rock solid. Hey Max, how are you? Hi Jimmy Joe, how are you? Who else have I missed since I've come in? Rob's Vintage Video. Hi, how are you? Kevin from Tuber Chat. Greetings, sir. Kevin is a DJ. So he is also in the music. He loves music and he's in it. He used to work at a radio station. Really great guy. Glad you guys are here. Andre's here. Man, you guys are tearing it up again tonight. Thank you guys so much. Go ahead and start dropping some questions if you want. I will go ahead and we'll feed them on to Jerry. But drop some questions as we continue. Um, so again, thank you for being honest about that, man. That takes a lot of heart.
Well,
I respect it
for
very
me,
much.
when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'm pretty passionate about that. I mean, if anybody, you know, I know what it's like to get sober or to like deal with that kind of stuff or to carry that kind of bricks. So I'm always happy to talk about it, to help somebody else, you know, um, to be there for other people when it comes. That's something I've learned through some of my very good friends that are in AA, that like that it's always it's always cool to be there for somebody else that needs that kind of help. You know what I mean? And that's
Right.
that's kind of what that whole world is to me. It's kind of like a good some people are not into AA thing. I don't go all the time. I go here and there, but it's kind of a good reminder in a plastic fucking disposable everything world, to go somewhere where people are, you see people trying to be better, people that want to be better, and people that actually like care about each other. It's kind of a little, it kind of restores your faith in humanity a little bit whenever you go into those rooms, you know? It's like Christmas time all the time, in the sense that around Christmas, you see other people doing something for somebody else, and it reminds you to maybe be a little kinder around Christmas. You're like, I want to, instead of being like, fuck you, you're like, oh, it's Christmas, let him go. Or, AA is kind of like that for me. It's kind of like, it teaches you to kind of be like, hey, there are good people. Some people are going through things. So it's just like a gentle, good reminder that there's some like good in the world, or to try,
Right.
That's what I love about recovery. And
See, to me, like you said something earlier that really, that really is true, and it's like, to me, if anybody deserves to be glamorized per se, it's the ones who are actually, trying to live a clean and sober life, or have chosen that. You can still make your art without the addiction. You can do it.
dude,
The glamorization it always kills me, Jerry, because it's like, like I said, you and I have seen a lot of our friends go, or people that we worked with go, and it's not glamorous. It's fucking sad.
I agree. A good friend of mine, many years ago, I saw him after not seeing him for a many years, but he said something to me that stuck with me. He said, it's it's really easy to be a fucking piece of shit. So easy. But what's hard is to be a good person all the time. That's hard. Like, it takes more work and dedication and just overall, it just takes more to be a better person all the time than to just let it go and just be an asshole, or be a piece of shit person. So there's something to be said in that. I think that we all kind of, in our younger years, it's fun to be crazy, but as you mature and grow up a little bit, you either kind of start to figure it out, start to want to be better to people. Because look, I mean, the bottom line is, life is just about how you treat other people. That's all we're here for, really. I mean, if you're gone tomorrow, if you were, if somebody's gone tomorrow, when they're gone, they're not going to be like, yeah, that podcast that he did was just so amazing. They're not going to say that. They're going to remember when, their car broke down and you showed up to pick them up that one time, or, the time when I didn't have any money and he gave me $20, or the time when I had a flat tire and he showed up, or, the good things that you did. It isn't really so much what you did, it's how you affect people. And I think that that's kind of what it's all about in the end, right? That's what people are going to remember.
Yeah.
And
what legacy are you going to leave behind?
what am I leaving behind?
Yeah. Well, what do you think what do you want to be remembered by? I'm gonna borrow that question from V. But what do you want to be best remembered for? Besides playing a great musician.
I mean, I think that it would be to be remembered as somebody who kind of came from nothing, that did something, that achieved their, it's kind of like somebody who achieved their dream, a kid from a bedroom that got to do everything. And besides that, it's just about my kids, but people are going to, I hope people would remember me. But if they remember me, hopefully it would be like for being somebody who got some redemption in life, you know? Because it's been like
I'm actually sitting here and I'm thinking about this now, and I'm going like, we're talking about this, and I remember probably the most well-known artist I dealt with who was living a clean life, a sobriety life. He was really fiercely protective of it too. And you mentioned his band earlier, and you'll probably know who I'm talking about when I say Mike Ness.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He was I mean, he was one of those that just was angry against it. He hated it so much, and yeah, he was fierce. He came. He almost hit the very bottom. Then he recovered, and he became a very outspoken proponent for sobriety and music. And I was actually thinking about him. When you were talking about playing with him and whatnot.
Yeah. I've met him and hung out with him quite a few times, and every time it was an absolute pleasure. I mean,
yes,
he's one of those guys that I'm like, he's like a hero to me.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like that would probably be, if there was anybody left that I would love to put on my resume, it'd be Social Distortion.
Man, that's a great band.
That's probably one of my favorite bands, and that's a band. That's a band I listen to all the time. I would say Social Distortion I listen to the most, and I would probably be like, all the older stuff. Funny thing is most people would think I listen to heavy music, but I don't.
I wonder if anybody in the chat knows who Social D is. That's what I'm gonna turn that. I'm gonna put them on the spot and say, does anybody know who Special D or Social D is? While they're answering that, I'm gonna catch up on our chat because there's a lot of people been commenting. Jimmy Joe is supporting you. He's saying he's having a hot coffee at Ireland at 2 a.m. Yeah, all right. Full support for that. Right, Andre? Jimmy Joe says he works as crew setting up music stages around Ireland. That's a very important job. Thank you very much for doing that.
Ireland, the fucking land of Thin Lizzy.
Are not crew members like the most? Aren't they just underrated as all hell? The guys that you put on crew that do load-ins and load-outs and shit like that. Aren't they the who's your best loader? Who is the best crew member you work with? And give us a couple of stories.
I've worked with so many like cool people over the years. It's hard for me to say. I mean, maybe my buddy Moby, who worked with Typo Negative. My buddy Bull, he worked with Seven Dust and Disturbed. He was kind of my guy for a lot of years.
Really? Seven Dust was an amazing band. Had the pleasure of booking them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Like you said, Thin Lizzy and Rocks.
Yeah, we got Thin Lizzy too, but of course we didn't get them during their heyday. I mean, when Phil was there, but we did get them. And
I am a gigantic Thin Lizzy fan.
Really?
Thin Lizzy is one of my top favorite bands. Probably a huge influence on my music. Love it. That the Thin Lizzy documentary I really, really liked a lot. I'm actually meeting with a film producer tonight because he's going to be doing a documentary, I guess, about me and my life.
Congratulations.
But I had brought up the Thin Lizzy documentary. I don't know if you've seen it, but it is really good.
No, I haven't seen it, but I will look it up. I'm sure it's on the tube. I can find it.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's just shot so classy and so elegant. Disturbed and Device.
See, now isn't this something? Now see, we're talking about a great band like Thin Lizzy, and it was cut down in its prime through destruction. How many bands have we lost like that were, like we're just there, ready to go, or we're in, and then just self-destruction. I'm thinking of Tyler Hawkins from Foo Fighters.
Typo Negative.
That guy had everything. A Typo Negative.
I mean, countless. I mean, you know, I can't. I I could go on forever of people that I was close with that passed away. Two of my singers from two of my bands, Nothingface and the Deadlights, both singers died from overdoses. One from heroin, the other from like OxyContin and morphine type of a thing. And then, you know, so many of my friends, Lynn Strait from Snot, uh, Jimmy the Rev from Avenged Sevenfold, Paul from Slipknot. I mean, it's just forever and ever. Dave Williams from Drowning Pool. So many people from, you know, heroin to Xanax and alcohol, or alcohol poisoning, or, you know, or just complications from a long lifetime of problems. You know what I mean? Like Pete Steele didn't die from a drug overdose, but it just, you know, when you run yourself in the ground for so long, and
yeah, you just,
you know,
yeah, you can't. Yeah. I just feel robbed. I feel robbed when I see that. You know, I'm like,
well,
why?
it's interesting to, you know, it's like when we started doing this, all of us together here in LA, and started getting record deals and becoming, you know, whatever that they, you know, quote unquote, the rock life thing. We were all friends. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
that, you know, it's perception from the outside. You know, people see the picture that we paint for you, but we're all friends, and most of us all know each other very personally, text each other, call each other the same way that, you know, Jonas talks to one of his buddies. You know what I mean? But it's the same difference, you know. And then you start out at one point, you have successes, you go through life, and then as you start to lose friends from these things, it's strange, you know. Or to watch them, you know, pass away and move on, and then people hold them to a regard of things that we held people to that regard as kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, Cliff Burton was like, whoa, Cliff Burton, and he died when he was 24. You know what I mean? Like, Matt Holt from Nothingface is that to some people. Vinnie Paul's that to tons of people. Dimebag Darrell, one of my best friends. You know, to see them move on and then become that thing is strange as a friend of these people. You know what I mean? Because it's not something you ever think of or consider.
You know, that's an interesting segue. Let me catch up with that, because I have a question about that. I want to catch up with the chat. They've been waiting for me so patiently. Thank you so much for this, Jerry. I'm just having a ball. I hope everybody here is enjoying this as much as I am asking the questions. This has been a real honor, and we're not done yet. Let me tell you. Let me catch up with the chat real quick. See, Ant wants to know, who's your favorite member of KISS?
Gene Simmons.
Gene Simmons. Yeah, mine too.
It goes like this. My favorite, it's weird because the person that I can't stand the most is Gene Simmons, but he was the one that I loved when I was a kid, that I wanted to play. But the one that I actually probably loved the most is Ace Frehley, because he's the shit.
Frehley's Comet. Yeah.
I love him.
Huge I love that.
Ace fan.
Yeah. Let's see. V says to change the mentality and change of habits. Unfortunately, that's the problem when your habit is tied to your career. That's really hard. I mean, that's one of the things they tell you, you know, like move. You have to move yourself out of your range of addiction. If you're in an area where you can get drugs or alcohol at a you know, especially drugs, you have to literally take your ass and get out of that area to have a fighting chance. But when you're in a band and you're going from place to place and people are offering you that shit, that's hard. That's really hard. I will tell you right now, I was very fierce about that. We all were at the edge. We did not let people like that in our club. If we caught you doing that, your ass was out on a bump. I'm telling you. So we didn't get a lot of that. We didn't get a lot of that kind of action. Thank God. Let's see. Whiskey in the jar. Alice in Chains. Let's see. Jimmy Joe wants to know if he ever shared a stage with Johnny Depp.
No, I've met him, but I've never shared a stage with him. I don't know him or anything like that. He's kind of on a, they were the different level,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like I used to be at the Viper Room all the time in the old days and stuff, but I've never shared the stage with him, never anything.
I wonder if he's I wonder how he can play today. Because we lost one of his fingers, so I wonder how he plays today. Hopefully, because I know he's been there since, but I don't know. I mean, I think don't you have to basically have all your fingers really to be able to play like a guitar? I mean, you can adapt to it, but to play as intricately as you or other artists do, you really do have to have all your fingers, don't you?
Tony Iommi doesn't have all of his fingers from Black Sabbath. Greatest.
How many fingers does he have?
He's missing half of his finger.
No way. Okay. People are gonna get on me for that.
He was his whole life, like since he was a teenager. He's missing.
I know the drummer for Def Leppard. He played with one hand, with one arm. He was awesome. He got hurt in that accident. Ant says Social D is great. So it's one person knows who Social D is. You're welcome, V. I always give credit where credit's due. That was a really good question. Let's see. I think we are all caught up. Let's see. Ant says he's a Paul guy. Jonas says great stream. Thank you, Jonas. Let's see. He can put on a scissor finger on and play. Yeah. All right, so let's see. So let's get back into this real quick. What's been your favorite record that you've actually worked on as far as recording? I mean, and walk us through a day of recording. I mean, like we don't know how it works. So how does a band how does the recording session actually work?
It's all different, it varies. Everybody does it differently. Different producers do it differently. Generally, you'll spend a few months writing, then spend maybe a couple of weeks in pre-production. If you're making a full record, like in the old days, like say for Elektra or something, with Sylvia Massey, we would be in pre-production with her for 2 or 3 weeks in a rehearsal room where she'd be like, oh, try this, try that. And then we would move into a studio and then start with drums.
Drums are drums and bass basically the heartbeat of a song?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, it's the main rhythm of everything. But you always start with drums first, and then they'll usually move on to guitars to kind of get a complete picture, and then do the bass, and then vocals. And it could take, depending on the record, the complexity, the producer, the Deadlights record, we worked at Sound City and NRG. And I think we spent a couple of months in the recording studio, maybe a month and a half, 2 months. They would bring in every kind of amp, every kind of guitar, every kind of, in the old days before plugins, they would bring in, 30 guitar amps and pedals and all kinds of stuff. Nowadays, you don't do that. But in the old days, that's how it was. But with the Hellyeah record, we did it all at Dimebag Darrell's house in his backyard. And they had a studio where they did the Pantera records. So we kind of had everything there already set up. So it kind of varies, but overall it would be drums, guitars, bass, and then vocals. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Some people do the whole thing. So we do, 2 weeks of drums and then 2 weeks of guitars and overdubs and then, a week of bass and then, a few weeks of vocals. With Hellyeah, for instance, we pretty much would do a song a day. So we would pretty much track almost the whole entire song in a day. And so, I think maybe we spent a couple of weeks and then mixing and stuff,
Is it pretty tedious? Is it tedious, or is it like does it a necessary evil per se, or
No,
is it something that you are exciting to do?
It's super exciting. It's the most fun to me. I mean, it's hard to say because I love being in a recording studio. There's something about being in there, hearing it come together, trying different things, being excited, just can't wait to hear the whole thing come together, listening to rough mixes of it, and then the mix stage and then coming out with it done is amazing. It's strange because when you make a record, when you're on tour, you think like, oh, I gotta make a record. Fuck. Like it's stressful. Because you're like, I got the precision, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And then you get in there and then you get comfortable and then that's all you want to do. And then after X amount of time, the record's done. And then 4 months later, after that, it's time to go on tour. Then you're like, oh, then you stress out about going out and doing shows because you haven't done that in a long time and it feels awkward, And then you get out on stage and you do that for a week and then you're in your element and you're like an athlete. You're ready to fucking kill every night. And then you're back in your game and you're just on fire to do that. And then it's time to make a record and then you're like, oh,
It's exciting.
It's exciting and then stressful and then it's exciting and then you go back to the doing it live part, the
right.
cycle of it. I've been doing it professionally without a job since 1998.
Right. So
got my first record deal in 98, 99, something like that.
I got some more here for you. I'm going to catch up once again to the chat because it's flying. See, Jonas mentions drums are hard to record. I've always wanted to learn.
That's what we're doing right now. It's doing drums.
See, Johnny Depp. Let's see, what's this? Johnny Depp can what? Let's see. Oh, okay. Let's see.
Yes, Jones.
He can put on a scissor singer. Okay. Oh, God. All right. Johnny Depp can play and sculpt an ice angel at the same time. Edward Scissorhands. Okay. See, question from V. Jerry, you have seen music technology evolve. Is there something that you wish did not evolve, and vice versa? I mean, has there been any advances that have worked against the musician versus helping?
There's a lot of stuff that has, but for as much, it's like with anything, as much as something has advanced and maybe taken something away, it's made something else reappear. So, in the old days, I would have to go to make a record. I would have to go to a expensive recording studio and do a million things. Now, if I wanted to, technically I could do it all in my bedroom,
Isn't that amazing?
It's not something I'm going to do, and I'm not doing that now, but I've been able to actualize the entire picture myself, drums, guitar, bass, vocals. It sounds almost like a record from what I've done in my house. You know what I mean?
Right.
So as far as technology, I think it's great because it's made it easier for a lot of people to become involved or interested in music even, and I hope that in the future more people will be inspired to pick up actual instruments and play them, and do it the old-fashioned way, you know what I mean, with human beings and to be inspired to want to do those things or interact, You know what I mean? I mean, isn't that what all music is really? I mean, we're creating something that people get a feeling from, something that they connect to in their own unique way, every individual person. And then the end result is the show, and the show is people coming together for something that they all love and feeling like that there are other people that feel the same way as they do, or, you know, love the same thing or have the same interests. You know, it's cool.
You mentioned something earlier. I was just gonna. There's two things I wanted to ask you real quick too. You mentioned earlier about another musician. It used to be, like when you play out in a big venue and a concert, like a festival or whatnot, and you would see people crowd surf all the time, right? You see them, or they would actually stage. They get on they do stage diving, they surf up to the stage and whatnot. And it really used to be quite fun. It's like you see it, and it's cool. People do that, and musician, as long as they're not touching your equipment, it's like okay, whatever. But to me, it just it seems to be, I could be wrong about this, but it seems to me that that's sort of because the musicians, because the ones I saw when they saw it, it was great, even better when it was a pretty girl. And they get on stage and they jump off the stage or whatnot. But you mentioned Dimebag, who was murdered on. Did that ever affect? I mean, of course, it affected everybody. But did that affect bands playing? Like as far as like when you saw someone crowd surfing or someone come on stage, because we see a few videos have come out like in the last few years of before when someone would stage dive, they would just either be, either they go back into the crowd or they just get walked off the stage. But now when they seem to hit the stage, it's almost like they're treated as invaders. Does it bother you when you're playing live, see someone come onto the stage from the crowd? Does that give you pause?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like that at all.
God,
I mean, I understand. I understand from a fan's perspective of getting on the stage and whatever, but it's, for me, it's not like that at all. It's like we're like territorial, man, like a fucking, like a lion or a tiger. You know what I mean? That's like our territory. And when you invade that space, you're never going to get even the most polite person, when they're like, okay, they'll turn their backs, but no one's happy about when anybody does that to their stage. It's just getting in the way. It's fucked up. You know what I mean? And you don't know.
Yeah.
And
it goes from tolerance to a little bit of.
And when you've had a friend, a real, Dimebag Darrell, he's a legend. He's an icon. He's bigger than life to so many people, on a Hendrix level, you know what I mean? But to me, he wasn't. I mean, he was, but he was my very, very dear friend. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was my friend that we would get drunk and both pass out on the couch, and I'd wake up and he'd be laying on me, and
Right.
Yes. So it's different, when all of that went down. I remember I was calling his phone over and over again when it happened. Like, when it happened, just praying that it was not real, So when you, and with a lot of us, I remember with Danzig, for instance, after that, a lot of us, most people got bodyguards and people around, armed bodyguards and people, because you're out there in the element. There's 8 of us traveling across the country or the world. You know what I mean? You got to be careful. You just never know. When you see the unthinkable happen and that it has happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that thing. It's like that thing where you see on the news people die all the time, and then someone you're really close to gets killed or something, then it's not the news anymore. It's real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just wondering how that would, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it does. So the short answer is yes, it has affected everybody. It still does affect people, and people are still sketched out of, you just don't fucking know.
Yeah, it used to, like I said, it used to be something that long as the venue had good security, you could actually get on stage. You could, if it's a girl, a lot of times they sit there, let her wiggle her butt, and then they, walk her off the stage. With the guys, they just turn around, and a lot of the guys would just get on the stage, turn right around, and jump off the stage. Stage diving. They didn't try to meet the band or shake your hand or anything. They just wanted to get on there, turn around, go like that, and then jump off the stage. It was cool, because they were going to get caught. But I was just wondering, after that happened, did the mentality change? And I'm not surprised that it did. I mean, before now, because
yeah, it totally changed. But yeah, it's kind of, just getting in your personal space. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Going back, you're out there in your fucking your sprinkler business, and you got your lines laid out because you're gonna start digging shit, and then fucking I jump in there and just start dancing around on all your shit. You're
Oh,
like, motherfucker. Like,
yeah, I can't.
Like,
you know what?
I'm trying to get my shit. Quit fucking around. Get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm trying to get something done here. Get out of my fucking way.
I went at my very first venue. Where we had a band called the Gargoyles were playing, and they were playing on our very tiny stage, and they had a really cute girl guitar player, and she was really cute, and she was playing, and one of her amps was going to fall. It was going to fall, and I went and I caught it, and I put it back on there. Nice guy, go back there. Man, as soon as that set was over, she came right up to me, got right in my face, and said, "Don't fucking touch my equipment." I'm like, "Whoa!" But and then of course the singer came over and said, "Wait a minute, time out. That's not how it's gonna work." He saved your shit. I watched it, but it was like, sorry, I really. And after that, honestly, I mean, unless someone told me to, like, yeah, can you help me? Man, I never put my hand on anybody's equipment again. Yeah, I didn't. I was like,
in these situations, everybody's working and everybody kind of has a flow of what they're doing and how things move. So when things coming from the outside, you're just like, just go away. I know what's you know what I mean? Like, it's the same with Bull or like Moby or like our techs. They're like, I get that you're trying to be nice. Now fuck off and go away. I know what I'm doing. You're in my world. You know what I mean? Like they have everything covered,
Yeah.
And it's
we'd be there to help load in a band. We would have like 5 or 6 guys there to help load in, and they're going like, "What are you guys here for?" We're gonna help you load in. No, we got it. And there's like 2 of them or 3 of them, and they're going like, "Well, there's 6 of us. We can help you. 9 people better than 3."
I mean, loaders are great to get the stuff in there, but everybody has a certain place, it's a certain thing, or you're on a tour, and the headliner doesn't want you in the venue at a certain time. That's a lot. There are so many variables. You know what I mean? Headliner doesn't want your gear next to the stage or your shit out until they are all set up and they tell you or direct you where to go. There's always variables when it comes to that. So I understand.
Okay. Yes. Let's see. Star-Lord mentions mosh pits can replace stage diving. Mosh pits are awesome. Best mosh pit you ever saw, Jerry?
God, I don't know.
Slayer.
Probably.
Slayer. Yeah.
Honestly, now that I think about it, I think that it was Slayer at the Warfield.
Oh, the one in the Warfield, San Francisco. Oh,
I think it was Slayer at the Warfield in like, it was Seasons of the Abyss. So it was probably like 92, 91.
Around that time. Yeah.
They made a live album out of it, I think.
They did I saw where they played outside of the festival and they had a pit. That pit it looked like a freaking eye of a hurricane. It was so massive. It started in the center and then it got bigger and bigger and it looked like a damn hurricane. It was just like crazy. I was like, I love pits. I've been in my fair share, but I'm not sure about that one. But yeah, I think Slayer always had the best pits.
Yeah.
Okay. What was it like working with Glenn Danzig? That's from Ra's Vintage Video.
Working with Glenn was great. Him and I always got along very well. We're very good friends. He was easy to work with. He wasn't. It was always fun and interesting. I mean, the crazier the show is, we would have barricades break and a riot and shit, and he would just laugh and think it was funny. We always had a good time. Working with Glenn was a pleasure. He gave me he brought me up to another level, and it's something I take pride in, of being a part of the legacy of a small part of the legacy of what is the whole Danzig Misfits legacy, something that I'm a part of that'll always live on for a very, 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 very long time.
Right.
Working with him was a pleasure.
That's right. Yeah, you recorded on 2 records. You played on 2 records with Glenn. Let's see. Jonas says, "Funny you say that. Oh, about working on stage, about people on stage. Funny you say that. When I was a plumber, we were tunneling underneath a house, which is kind of scary, by the way. And the homeowner's kids were crawling in there and playing. And we got mad and kicked them out because they didn't realize how dangerous it was. Yeah, that would be very crazy. Let's see. The only time I ever touched someone's drums or guitars was during a stage change when asked. When asked, that's the key. That's the key word there. Asked. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. No problem, Rob. Glad. Let's see. Let's see. Help mods as well, so they can ask on your behalf or put. Oh, okay. Never mind. That was for Glenn. Hey, Casey, how are you? Real quick here. I know we're supposed to be talking movies too, but our time is almost up. Can I have you for 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do 10 more minutes because Jerry's got to go. He just mentioned he's going to be. I think that was exclusive. That the fact that his life is going to be made into a documentary.
Yeah.
So you heard that here first on 8 Questions With. So see, that's the kind of action and adventure you can get here every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. Okay. That sounded corny. So what's your favorite movie that you've ever watched? The one that you it's a go-to, or better yet, let's make it 3. What's your 3 favorite movies?
It would depend on what kind of movie it is. So, for instance, horror would be either newer or older, or non-horror, or so it's hard to say.
Are you an IFC Midnight fan?
A what? Oh, IFC. I don't have that. I don't know. I used to be in the old days. I used to watch IFC, but I haven't seen that in years.
Man, I gotta have to. I'm gonna get with you after this. I'm gonna get your address. I'm gonna send you some IFC shit.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I love top 3 horror movies would probably be Return of the Living Dead. I can watch over and over again. Probably Black Sunday, Barbara Steele, and The Beyond.
Oh, from Fulci. Oh my gosh, that ending is unforgettable, isn't it?
Yeah,
dude, that ending is freaking freaky.
I love that movie. So yeah, and then as far as like regular movies, probably like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is one of my absolute favorites. And believe it or not, I don't know why. I mean, I know why, because I love movies that are like a grand story. And as much as everybody hated it, I loved The Curious Life of Benjamin Button.
It's a good movie. It's a really good movie.
Because it reminds me of Forrest Gump, which is a funny movie, but I love that movie too because it's like a grand tale in the sense that it goes through so many. Big Fish is one of my favorite movies. That's definitely, and you notice those 3 films are very much alike.
Yes. I thought Benjamin Button was a lot more layered than Forrest Gump was.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying in the sense that all 3 of those films are a grand tale of someone's life going through many different places.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The 3 films are very similar to me, but you know, Big Fish is one of my absolute favorites as well. I can watch Big Fish and Return of the Living Dead over and over again.
Ant wants to know, what's your worst movie that you've ever saw? $50 if you say Hereditary.
I don't even know if I've seen that. The worst movie that I ever saw. Fuck. Something where you're like, what the fuck?
Like Hereditary.
Like Mulholland Drive, where you're like,
oh, Mulholland Drive. No, that was brilliant.
I liked it a little bit, but I was like, what the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah, but that's such a different movie though.
But it's like, what happened?
She went crazy.
Yeah.
She was trying to make it, and she was trying to make it.
After I saw it, I was like, what? I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm a huge film lover. So for something for me to really hate it, I would have to see something in it that I really, you know, in a horror movie that I thought was an atrocity was what's his face? What's the guy in Dracula?
Gary Oldman?
No. Bill and Ted. What's his name?
See, it wasn't George Carlin.
Somebody's gonna say it any second. I don't know why I can't.
Who played the vampire in
see, not the vampire. God, how come I can't think of his name right now?
Keanu Reeves?
Keanu Reeves in Dracula is probably the worst thing I've ever seen.
Jimmy Joe just broke my heart. He says the worst movie he ever watched was The Human Centipede. That's actually a brilliant movie. You can't watch it more than once.
I didn't bother. That one didn't bother me so much.
No. You have to watch that one. You have to watch that. That's like a one-time thing, or watch it with friends. Centipede is awesome. Centipede is awesome. Now Martyrs, on the other hand, that's a good movie too, but that's only a movie you can only watch once. That's a really heavy movie. Yeah, Centipede is good. Thank you, Alicia. Alicia knew who you were talking about. All right. Last round for questions. Last round. Let's see. Ant Review says, Pat's is Superman 4. Hell yes. Superman 4 is horrible.
I don't even remember Superman 4, but
you don't even want to.
I love the first 2 Supermans though.
Me too. I love the first 2. I didn't see 3. I saw 4. Wish I hadn't. I was traumatized forever.
When I was a little kid, I used to love watching the old Supermans.
Oh, the George Reeves Supermans.
I
Yeah.
love those. When I was a little kid, my two favorite shows were George Reeves Superman and I Love Lucy.
My little brother Peter, he used to put a little cape on. He would jump on the kitchen on our coffee table and do Superman. He fly like Superman. Let's see. Ant says Batman and Robin is the worst movie ever. Not worse than Superman 4. John Horton, how are you, sir? Let's see. John wants to know. Give us, and this will lead us out. We're gonna lead out with John. Tell us your funniest off road story. What's the one thing that's made you laugh the hardest when you were on the road? Be it interaction with a fan, one of the many ladies out there on the road, or a band member?
I would say probably one of the. There are so many; it's endless. I mean,
yeah.
Some I could tell, some I could never tell. Some are just so, like whatever you think is the craziest shit that's possible. Like times it by 50, and then you're like 10 miles away from the shit I've seen. You know?
Right.
But and that's not an exaggeration. I would say a funny one is we were on tour Typo Negative, and we were opening up for Typo on the World Coming Down tour. And every time I was playing, going to the mic, this guy kept, like, I would talk, and then he was saying something, pointing at me, right? And then the song would end, and I would talk, da 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 da, and this guy would be like, ah, da da. And then finally I was, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I just remember I kept going. I remember I was like, come on, motherfucker, San Antonio, let's do this, da da da. And this guy would be like, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, motherfucker, fuck you. And then next song, whatever, doing my thing. And then finally, like, I was about to punch this dude. And so I grabbed the microphone and I said, obviously, what you have to say is more important than what I'm doing, motherfucker. What do you got to fucking say? And I put the microphone in front of his mouth and he said, it's Houston.
Oh shit.
Oh, all right.
After this show, I'm out of here. I'm going home. That's when you've been on the road too long.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah. Oh my God. All right, John, you got that's a great story. Yeah. You know what, Jerry, you're gonna have to come back sooner than later. We'd love to have you come back. We'll do more movies next time for sure. I just got the music bit in my mouth. I had to run with it. I hope some of the questions we asked you were fresh and original, and we didn't bore you with them. That's one thing I like I said, I know that you've been around the world. You've been interviewed many times. And I hope that we asked you some fun questions and you enjoyed your time here.
I had a great time. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and talking to you and everybody here, and Jonas and all of our boys that hooked us up. And yes, I do know Dave Ellefson very well, and Jason Newstead, toured with him, Rob's Vintage Video. And I just want to say thank you to everybody, man. And if you haven't, stop by my Instagram and give me a follow, say hi. I'll always hit you back. And Patrick, thank you, man.
Oh, it's been an honor.
And we got you a logo.
Yes, you made me a logo. I got my new logo, which I'm gonna be putting my thumbnail here in a minute. Jerry made for me, so there you go. See,
my girlfriend.
That's right. I'll have the hottest logo coming on soon. I'm probably gonna actually I might just transfer that to my background. I might have to change that out. I might have to put that in the background. The cheetah enjoyed it as well. I'm surprised he didn't make an appearance today, but maybe next time. All right. tomorrow night we have filmmaker Rocky Carledge from Ghost Walk Films. He will be here with us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. He is one half of Ghost Walk Studios, along with Victoria Varden. And we'll be looking forward to talking to Rocky tomorrow. And then Saturday, again, thanks to our good friends from the Friendly Men, we have a interview with Shannon Vieira, whose family has been in Hollywood probably since the beginning of making motion pictures. Her family has been involved in the business for that long, and she will be here with us on Saturday at 3 p.m. That is it. Thank you again to the chat. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much, and have a great night. Jerry, you stay right where you're at just for one more second. Everybody else, see you tomorrow. Peace.
Thank you, guys.